G'day, I'm Glenn from Toperformance Products and welcome to another KONI install video. Today we're in a Skoda Superb. Now this Skoda has got ECC, which is electronic chassis control. So quite simply what that means is, if we jump into this little menu here, might be a bit hard to see from there, but we've got Eco, Comfort, Normal, Sport and individual settings. So each setting changes the engine mapping, it changes the suspension setup. I've found it under normal driving or comfort, it's very soft and the car just wallows and I'm not a big fan of it. So the only suspension setting I like was Sport. The only problem with Sport is it revs the engine up and holds the gears a lot longer and it's not fun to drive around in day to day. So I set the individual settings to pretty much everything's normal, but the suspension's on Sport suspension. Now the car's done 100,000 kilometers and I think that because the ECC's put extra pressure on the shock absorbers over that period of time, they've destroyed them. So at the moment it sounds like I'm driving around in a with a Milo tin full of bolts on the front left hand side. So I've looked at options, and of course, being KONI, we looked at the special actives, and I've spoken to a few people that have done it in the Volkswagen equivalent of this, which is the Passat, and it appears that that's the go. So today we're going to be installing special active front and rear with iBark springs. Now because the shock absorbers aren't electronically controlled anymore, we're going to put an ECC delete in there, so that, well, it's just pretty simply tells the computer quite simply that there is, you know, the shock absorbers are electronic, so it feeds back to the ECU saying that yeah, everything's fine, even when you go through all the different modes and everything. The ECU thinks that yeah, I'm doing the right thing by the shock absorbers and they're changing, when really the whole time we're relying on the KONI special active. So I'm just going to go for a little bit of a drive, and if you listen carefully you might be able to hear the noise the front shocks make. They're excuse the beeping, but yeah, they're not nice, especially going up and down driveways and over speed humps. They're terrible. There's got a little bit of traffic coming. Yeah, I think the rear's gone as well, because I'm getting noises from the front and the rear. Did you hear that? Oh, it sounds terrible. It sounds terrible. So I'm on my way to the KONI workshop in Springvale. It's a new facility. We share it with our Road Safe's R&D division, so we're going to get the Road Safe techs working on the car as well today. And even now, I've got what mode's this thing in? Oh, it's in normal. You probably can't see it from the camera, but every little bump the car goes over in normal. It's just this really lazy sort of wallowing, and it's horrible. So I put it in individual, which is not nice, but you hear that? It's just rattling. Dig-a-dig, dig-a-dig. Oh, it doesn't sound good. And we had the car up on the hoist the other day too, and the shock absorbers are leaking, so they're messy. You know, I could have put the factory ones back in it and stuck with the same issues I've got with the suspension, or put the special active in that I know through experience of fitting them to a Tesla, Navara, X-Trail, and the feedback I've had from other people that have put them in these cars, that they're just a really, really good option. So I'll try to be unbiased in my review, but you know, I hope they're good. We'll see. So anyway, we'll sign out and we'll get this thing on the hoist and pull it apart and check it out. So here we are, we're back, got the Skoda into the workshop, and Will's getting ready to rip the shock absorbers out. It's a bit of a mess under there, so as you can see they've leaked and just spilt oil everywhere. There's the ECC setup that we're going to put in the delete there when the new shocks go in, but yeah, it's quite a mess. So it's in capable hands. Will's already, he's right into it. this is the shock that we took out of the Superb, and as you can see, it's a mess that's leaked. Now have a look at this. I can push it down with one finger. It's a mess. It's a mess. So look, something to point out with this one, as I mentioned earlier, we've got what's called the iBark Protronic. I was calling it ECC delete, which I guess is the right term for it. The electronic chassis control module, which is that box built onto the side of the shock absorber. So with the new, there we go. So with the new KONi Special Active, well, we don't need that because it's got the FSD valve inside, which is the double acting valve. So the way we overcome that is we've got this little setup here supplied by iBark, the Protronic, which is the delete system. So this gets mounted on the side of the shock absorber, and once it's in the car in a bit of a neat spot, it gets zipped on there, and that plugs in to the same place that this plugged into just there. So another thing to note too, because the shock absorber does all the dampening control with the electronic ride setup, we've had to change the springs. So as I mentioned earlier, we spoke with John at iBark, and we've got some different springs. So John's actually set us up with, he asked us what sort of ride we wanted. So we gave him hub to guard measurements. He asked us what sort of ride we wanted, and I said, oh, sort of a sportier ride, which is what I had it set up on originally. And so the spring setup too, we asked for a sportier ride, but standard height. We didn't want to go any lower with this particular car. We want to keep it standard height, as standard as can be, but handling a little bit more sportier, if anything. So that's why I went with these springs. So we're on the road test with the Special Active, and iBark springs have been fitted. Pretty happy there's no fault codes have thrown up, so the ECC delete kit's working brilliantly, and I've got to say, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it so far. Look, I've just driven around the block and gone over a few speed humps and around a few roundabouts, but it's really, really nice. And it might just be also because the other shock absorbers were completely destroyed, but it's the spring and shock absorber combination is beautiful. It's really sure-footed. It's got that lovely sort of European stiffness about it, but it's also really compliant, especially over some of the bigger bumps. So we'll just give a little scoot up here and go through a bit of a chicane. Doesn't sort of dip too much under power. It's lovely. A couple of bumps here. Beautiful. Alignment's nice. Yeah, look, really happy with it. I mean, the telltale sign will be spending a lot of time behind the wheel because, you know, it's driving around sort of suburban streets like this, you get a little bit of an idea of it, but yeah, so far so good.